You're listening to Coupled With, the podcast that helps you take the guesswork out of feeling seen, heard, and valued in your relationship. If you've ever felt stuck in the same arguments, struggled to stay connected, or wondered how to better communicate with your partner, you're in the right place. I'm Dr. Rachel Orlick, a couples therapist and coach, and together, we're going to make relationships make sense. Let's dive in. Let's be real for a second. Blame is one of the fastest, most natural things we do in relationships. And it usually sounds something like, if you had just listened, we wouldn't be in this mess. If you actually cared about me, you wouldn't have done that. Why is it always on me to clean up the pieces? Does any of this sound familiar? I'm not judging. If anything, I'm right there with you. Because the truth is, blame feels good in the moment. It feels powerful. It feels righteous. It gives you something to do with all the frustration swirling around inside of you. But here's the kicker nobody tells you about. Blame is a smoke detector. It's not the fire. Blame doesn't mean you're broken. It means something inside you feels threatened, scared, alone, and overwhelmed. And your nervous system slaps on armor to survive. Today, we're going to talk about what blame is really protecting, what it's doing to your relationship under the surface, and exactly how to shift it. Not just into cheesy, let's communicate better advice, but into the real kind of communication that builds understanding, importance, and connection again. No, just think positive, just the real, messy, powerful truth. Let's dive in. First things first, you didn't wake up one day and choose to be a blamer. Blame isn't a character flaw, it's a survival mechanism. And it usually starts way before your first adult relationship. I remember early in my marriage, little things would set me off. My husband would leave that pink, slimy stuff in the sink. And in my head, it wasn't just, oh, he forgot or didn't see it. It was, he doesn't care about me. He doesn't respect what I do. I'm invisible to him. Does that sound extreme to anyone else? It was, but at the time, it felt deadly serious. I wasn't actually mad about the sink. I was terrified. I was terrified that I didn't matter to the person that I loved the most. But instead of saying, I'm scared that I'm alone in this, I would say, you never help me. You don't even see how hard I'm trying. I launched blame like a missile. And guess what he did? He would throw up walls. He would defend himself. He would back away. Because that's what we all do when we feel attacked. And if we zoom way out, for most of us, blaming didn't start in adulthood. Maybe your big feelings got ignored, so you learned to shout to be seen. Maybe you got shamed for being too sensitive, so you armored up with blame to hide your tenderness. Blame is how we protect the most fragile parts of ourselves. The parts that still want to be loved. The parts that still want to matter. One of my clients was absolutely convinced her partner didn't care about her. Every time he forgot a detail, came home late, zoned out during a conversation, she launched into, you never listen. You don't value anything I say. Why do I even bother? She wasn't wrong to be hurt. But when we slowed down in session, something softer started to peek through. She wasn't just angry. She was scared. Scared that if she wasn't interesting enough, smart enough, exciting enough, she would be left behind. Blame was her armor. So the bottom line, blame isn't random, it's protective. It's fast, automatic, and it lets us dodge the scarier stuff. The fear that we're not enough, the shame of feeling invisible, the loneliness of feeling disconnected. Blame is the smoke detector screaming, something precious feels endangered inside me. Here's a quick reality check. If you recognize yourself in this, good. It means your nervous system is doing its job. It means you're human and not broken. But staying stuck in blame, that's like letting the smoke detector scream and never actually looking for the fire. Today, we're not just shutting off the alarm. We're learning how to actually find the fire, speak to it, and rebuild connection from it. Because you and your relationship are worth that kind of honesty. We're going to talk about what blame actually costs over time and why, even though it feels protective, it's slowly eroding the foundation you're standing on. So now that we know that blame is our nervous system's way of sounding the alarm, let's talk about what happens when that alarm keeps blaring day after day. Because here's the brutal truth. Blame feels good for about 5 minutes. And then it wrecks the thing that you were trying to protect. Blame feels good in the short term because in the heat of the moment, blaming your partner feels like taking your power back. You're hurt, you're overwhelmed, you're scared. Blame says, I'm not the weak one here, you are. It flips the script so you don't have to sit with the raw, messy feelings underneath. You don't have to say, I feel invisible. You don't have to say, I'm not enough for you. You don't have to say, I feel like I'm failing and it terrifies me. You get to say, you messed up, fix it. And for about 5 minutes, it feels righteous. It feels safe, like you're back in control of a situation that was making you feel out of control. But here's the long-term reality. Blame is like sugar. Feels good for a second, but it starves the relationship over time. Because what happens after the blast? Your partner goes into defense mode. Their walls go up. Their heart starts to shut down. They don't feel safe to be soft with you anymore. You stop looking like teammates and instead look like opponents. And you know what's even worse? Feeling alone in the very relationship that's supposed to be your safe space. Let's paint the picture. Imagine this. You're exhausted after a full day. The kids are screaming, your boss just dropped a new deadline, and dinner's burning. You look around and your partner's sitting on the couch scrolling on their phone. Trigger pulled. You snap. Must be nice to check out when everything's falling apart. But what happens? Your partner tenses up. They get defensive or distant. Maybe they snap back. Maybe they shut down. And boom. Now you're not just exhausted and overwhelmed. You're exhausted, overwhelmed, and emotionally alone. One couple I worked with had started with tiny blames. You're never on time. You always leave me hanging. You don't care what's important to me. At first, it was just the occasional dig. But over time, those tiny blames became the soundtrack of their relationship. She felt like she couldn't bring anything up without being accused. He felt like no matter what he did, it wasn't enough. Both of them started doing exactly what you'd expect. Withdrawing, shutting down, keeping score. Their relationship wasn't dying because they didn't love each other. It was dying because they didn't feel safe with each other anymore. Here's the key truth. Blame kills safety. No safety, no vulnerability. No vulnerability, no real connection. It's not less connection. It's not, we're just in a rough patch. It becomes fundamentally unsafe to be open with each other. And when emotional safety dies, everything else starts to die with it. Sex feels mechanical or dries up entirely. Parenting feels lonely and transactional. Date nights feel like obligations. Arguments turn into silent wars. You can still function as a couple on the outside, but on the inside, you're roommates with a shared history, not partners building a future together. This is the real heartache. Most couples who get stuck in this loop, they still love each other. They still want each other. They still miss each other. They just don't know how to reach for each other anymore without getting burned. Blame builds a fortress around your heart. And while you're standing behind that fortress, you're thinking, oh, I'm actually protecting myself. But you're actually trapping yourself inside. Let's do a quick gut check. If you're listening right now and feeling that gut punch, okay, good. It means your heart is still in this. It means part of you wants something better than the blame cycle. And I promise, you're not broken for struggling with this. Blame is normal. Staying stuck in it, that's optional. You can choose differently. You can learn a way to protect your heart without having to set your relationship on fire in the process. And it starts with seeing blame for what it really is: a cry for connection wearing armor. Next, we're going to talk about the critical pivot. How do you move from blame to vulnerability without feeling like you're handing over all your power? Stick with me, because this is where everything starts to change. Because once you see how blame operates, the next step is figuring out, how do I actually reach for connection without losing my voice, without feeling weak, and without giving up my boundaries? And the answer isn't stop blaming and be nice. That advice actually makes me want to throw something across the room. The answer is learning the difference between blame and vulnerability, and practicing what it sounds like to speak from the part of you that wants to connect, not the part of you that wants to punish. Blame sounds like this: you never prioritize me. You only care about yourself. You're always so defensive. You clearly don't even care if I'm upset. Now notice, there's real pain underneath those statements, but the way it's delivered, it feels like accusation. It pushes your partner into defense mode before they even have a chance to understand you. It makes them wrong, not because your feelings aren't valid, but because the way you're expressing them shames instead of shares. Vulnerability sounds more like this: I miss feeling like a priority in your life. I really feel alone when it feels like my needs get overlooked. When you pull away, I feel scared that I don't matter to you. It hurts when I feel like my feelings aren't safe with you. Can you hear the difference? Vulnerability shows your heart. Blame shields your heart. Vulnerability invites your partner to move with you and towards you. Blame dares your partner to defend themselves. Let's take a typical fight around parenting, because holy hell, nothing brings up the blame faster than feeling like you're overwhelmed with kids. So the blame version: you never step up. You just expect me to do everything. You don't even care how hard this is for me. The result is instant defense. Your partner shuts down and counters with, I work just as hard as you do. And now you're fighting about who's more exhausted. The vulnerability version: when bedtime is chaotic and I'm the only one handling it, I feel completely overwhelmed and invisible. I really need to feel like we're in this together. The result of this? A chance, a tiny opening, an opportunity for your partner to step toward you instead of away. Here's another one. Let's talk about intimacy. The blame version. You never want me. Maybe you're just not attracted to me anymore. Not only is there blame in that, but also you're telling your partner what they feel. The vulnerability version. When we haven't been close for a while, I start feeling really insecure and worrying whether you still desire me. I miss you. Now, I want you to notice vulnerability doesn't mean you hide your hurt. It means you name it clearly without stabbing your partner with it. The hard truth is that blame feels safer. It feels safer in the moment because it makes someone else the bad guy. Vulnerability feels risky. It feels like saying, "Here's my heart, please don't crush it." But vulnerability is the only real way through. Blame builds walls while vulnerability builds bridges. I know that's a little bit cheesy, but it's true. So here's a quick exercise to flip the script. I want you to think right now, what's something you blamed your partner for recently? Are you thinking about it? Okay, now flip it. What fear or hurt was underneath that blame? How could you share that with them instead? Because blame you says, you failed me. But vulnerability you says, I'm hurting and I want you with me in it. It's a really big difference. It's also a big risk, but it has the potential for massive reward. And listen, I get it. There's a part of you right now that's thinking, oh man, if I get vulnerable, aren't I just giving them a free pass? And no, vulnerability isn't about excusing bad behavior. It's about fighting for the relationship. It's not just for your pride. You can name the impact of their actions and stay in your self-respect without launching blame grenades. In fact, it's the strongest thing you can do. It's the opposite of weakness. It's leadership. It's emotional leadership. The bottom line is, blame says, fix it yourself so I don't have to feel this way. While vulnerability says, here's how I'm feeling. Will you meet me here? One of them makes connection impossible. The other makes connection inevitable. We're going to start slowing it down even further, though, and walk through what the actual blame cycle looks like when it gets rolling, and why it feels so hard to stop once it starts. You're going to recognize yourself, and while hard, that's a good thing, because awareness is the first step to change. Okay, let's slow it down and really walk through this. Because blame isn't just a feeling, it's a cycle. Once it kicks off, it's like a bad song on repeat. And every time you think you're done with it, one small trigger hits and boom, you're right back at the chorus. So let's break it down. Step 1, the trigger. Something small happens. Maybe you come home exhausted and your partner barely looks up from their phone. Maybe you make a vulnerable comment and they brush it off with a joke. Maybe you ask for help and they sigh like you just ruined their whole day. Trigger pulled. And your brain, like the world's best security system, immediately sounds the alarm. It starts shouting, I'm not important. I'm all alone. I'm not respected. I'm not safe here. This is the smoke detector. Then the next step is the blame launch. Now, this is when the nervous system kicks in. And remember, blame feels safer than sadness. So instead of saying, oh, that really hurt, you go for, you never care about anyone but yourself. You always make everything about you. You don't even notice when I'm drowning. Boom, blame missile launched. It leaves your mouth before you can stop it. Then the third step is the defense mode. And what does your partner's nervous system do? Exactly what yours did, but in reverse. Either way, you don't get comfort. You don't get understanding. You get more disconnection, which confirms your worst fear. I'm alone. They don't care. I can't count on them. Which leads to step 4, which is escalation and withdrawal. Now you're both standing there behind your walls, bleeding on the inside. Maybe you escalate. Louder voices, bigger accusations, harsher words. Maybe you withdraw. Cold silence, sarcasm, punishing distance. Either way, the relationship isn't moving forward. It's grinding deeper into resentment. And resentment is like relationship rust. It doesn't look catastrophic at first, but given enough time, it eats through everything you've built together. So it makes me think of a couple I just worked with. And every fight looked exactly the same. He would feel criticized and withdraw. She would feel abandoned and escalate. He would feel attacked and then shut down even harder, while she would get louder and meaner and more desperate. Over time, it really just got faster. It took less to trigger it until eventually they just could go from laughing to screaming in 90 seconds flat. Not because they didn't love each other, but because this blame cycle was stronger than their ability to stay connected. It really was heartbreaking because underneath all of that yelling, all of that shutting down, all of that blame, they were two people terrified of losing each other. And every time they fought, they accidentally pushed each other further away. This pattern is brutal. Blame doesn't just protect you, it triggers them to protect themselves too. And now you're not two people trying to solve a problem, you're two people trying to survive each other. Let's take a quick second for a reality check. Is this resonating with you right now? Okay, good. It means you're awake to it now, because you can't change what you won't name. And once you start spotting the blame cycle while it's happening, not just after it's destroyed everything, you're already halfway to breaking it. Awareness is everything. The biggest problem is that the longer a blame cycle runs a relationship, the more it rewires both people's nervous systems to expect pain, not comfort from each other. You stop reaching, you stop sharing, you stop risking. And when you stop risking vulnerability, the relationship stops growing. Not immediately and not dramatically at first. It just slowly, quietly starts to die. And that's what we're here to stop. Now I'm going to walk you step by step through exactly how to break the blame cycle, even when your whole body is screaming at you to armor up. This is where the real magic happens. Stay with me because this is the part that can change everything. Here's where we stop understanding blame and actually start changing it. Because insight without action, it's just another podcast episode you noddle on to and forget by tomorrow. But you're here because you want something different. You want connection, not just coping. You want to be seen and valued, not just manage fights better. And connection doesn't happen by accident. It's a skill, it's a muscle, and it starts with learning how to break the blame cycle in real time. So let's dig in. Step 1, recognize the smoke alarm early. The very first move is to catch yourself before you fully launch. Do you feel your heart rate spike? Or maybe that heat rising in your chest? Feel the words "you always" or "you never" about to fly out? That's your internal smoke detector blaring. Instead of grabbing the fire extinguisher and blasting your partner with blame, let's pause. Literally, pause. In your mind, say, I'm activated. My body wants to protect me, but what's happening here? See if it's fear or loneliness, feeling unimportant, feeling invisible. Find that core feeling because what you say next can either build a wall or build a bridge. Step 2, you got to speak from the soft spot. This is the hardest and bravest step. So instead of spitting out blame, you lead with vulnerability. And yes, it will absolutely feel unnatural at first. You'll want to armor up. You'll want to sound tougher and colder and less invested. But if you want connection, you have to be willing to be messy and real. Here's an example. Instead of starting with, "You never care about what I'm dealing with," instead try, "I feel overwhelmed and scared that I'm doing all of this alone." Instead of this, "You only touch me when you want sex." Try, "I miss feeling close. I miss feeling close outside of the bedroom too. I miss feeling wanted." Instead of, "You always overreact and ruin everything." Try, "I feel really scared when our conversations get heated. I start worrying that we're losing each other." Step 3 is really taking radical ownership. This may feel like a gut punch. Your feelings are yours. No one else makes you feel anything. They can trigger feelings for sure, but your emotions are yours to understand, to own, and to share. This is why eyewitness testimony is so difficult, because 10 people can see the exact same thing, but see it in 10 different ways. So here, blame says, "You made me invisible," while ownership says, "When that happened, I felt invisible." It's a subtle shift, but that little shift is everything. It moves the conversation from a courtroom where someone is guilty to a connection space where someone can comfort. And here's the bonus. When you own your feelings, you stay in your power. You're no longer handing your emotional state to your partner on a silver platter saying, "Here, control how I feel." You stay grounded, you stay sovereign, you stay you. Okay, let's look at step 4. You're going to slow it down together. Now, this part works even better if you and your partner both agree. When either of you senses the blame cycle starting, you can hit pause. You can literally say, "Hey, I think we're starting the cycle. Can we slow this down for a second? I love you. I don't want to fight with you. I want to understand you." Because this isn't about pretending you're not upset. It's about protecting the relationship while you're upset. You can be furious, disappointed, scared, and still fight for the connection, which moves us on to step 5. Repair quickly and often. Okay, listen. You're going to screw this up sometimes. You're going to launch a blame missile once in a while. You're going to catch yourself halfway through a sentence, "Oh, must be nice, ... and feel like crap about it. Good, because you're catching it mid-fight. That is a huge win. Repair sounds like, "Hey, that came out way harsher than I meant it to. I'm sorry. I'm really feeling scared. I realize I blamed you just now. What I meant to say is that I miss you. I got defensive. Let me try that again." Fast repairs build trust faster than perfect conversations ever will. When we know that our partner is willing to take ownership and repair with us, we start to develop a trust of that person so that we actually feel more comfortable being vulnerable. We feel more comfortable pointing out when we are in the cycle. And that creates so much more connection down the road. So that leads us into the next step, step 6, which is building a culture of appreciation. You cannot only work on stopping the negative. You have to actively build the positive as well. Because the reality is, the human brain is Velcro for negativity and Teflon for positivity. Meaning, if you don't intentionally feed your connection with appreciation, it's actually going to starve. So catch your partner doing things right, even tiny things. Thank you for handling bedtime tonight. I appreciate you checking in on me earlier. It meant a lot when you took the car to get serviced. I know you didn't have to. Notice, name it, say it out loud. Appreciation creates safety. It creates vulnerability. Vulnerability then creates connection. There's just no shortcut. I can't tell you how many times a client has said, all I get is criticism. I'm never seen for all the good things that I do. All the times that I am there, it just seems like they get forgotten. And then they feel deflated and they're less likely to lean in and be vulnerable and try the next time. I see that time after time. Let's not let that become part of your pattern. It brings to mind this client who spent years blaming his wife for never being affectionate enough. Session after session, it was the same cycle. He criticized, and then she defended. He withdrew, and she withdrew. Finally, one session, he broke down. And through the tears, he said, I just miss feeling wanted. I miss knowing I'm enough to her. Not a word of blame, just pure aching vulnerability. And for the first time in a long time, she moved toward him. She reached across her chair, she took his hand and whispered, I didn't know you felt that way. I miss you too. The whole energy changed because the walls didn't fall down from being pushed harder. They fell down when the armor was taken down first. So here's a quick recap. This is how to break the blame cycle step by step. So 1, recognize the smoke alarm early. 2, speak from that soft spot. 3, take radical ownership. 4, slow it down together. 5, repair quickly and often. And 6, build a culture of appreciation. It's not easy, it's not quick, but it's absolutely possible. And it's absolutely worth it. I'm going to close this out by reminding you why you're doing this work. It isn't just about fighting less. It's about building the kind of relationship you can actually breathe inside of. And really, you're closer than you think you are. Here's what I want you to hear. I'm going to make this loud and clear. You are not broken because you blame. You are not failing at love because sometimes you armor up. You're not a bad partner because sometimes you throw the first emotional punch instead of the first lifeline. You're human, and your nervous system has been trying to protect you in the best way it knows how. And the deeper truth, you deserve more than protection. You deserve connection and safety and the kind of relationship where you don't have to fight to matter. And that kind of relationship, it doesn't come from being tougher. It doesn't have the best comebacks. It doesn't come from winning the blame war. It comes from daring, again and again, to be seen. Even when it feels terrifying, even when it feels unfair. When everything in you wants to armor up and hurl a blame grenade instead. Blame is the smoke detector. Vulnerability is the fire extinguisher. Blame screams, hey, something's wrong. Vulnerability says, hey, let's figure it out together. Blame isolates, while vulnerability connects. And connection is what you came here for. Not just to avoid breakups or fights or feeling lonely, but to feel alive inside your relationship again. To feel like your heart is safe where it matters most. If today's episode stirred something up inside of you, that's good. That means that your heart is still alive and fighting for something better. And I'll tell you this, you are strong enough to do this work. You are brave enough to break the cycle. You are worthy enough to build the relationship you actually want, not just one you have to survive in. And you're not doing it alone. I'm in this with you. Every awkward attempt, every caught in the moment pause, every messy, beautiful repair. It counts. It matters. Your partner's going to feel that too. And it's the real way you build love that lasts. You can take even just one small step today. Maybe it's catching yourself mid-blame and taking a breath. Maybe it's texting your partner an appreciation. Maybe it's just letting yourself feel the ache underneath the anger without shaming yourself for it. And if you know someone who's stuck in the same cycle, share this episode with them. Because when one person starts breaking the cycle, it gives everyone around them permission to do the same. And if you're ready for more real talk about relationships, emotional safety, and connection that actually works, we're just getting started here. You got this. If you've been nodding along during this episode thinking, this is exactly what happens in my relationship, but I don't know how to stop it, I made something for you. It's a free 7-day email course called Break the Cycle. Each day I'll walk you through simple steps to stop the same fight from repeating and start rebuilding real connection without shutting down, walking on eggshells, or trying to do it all perfectly. You can sign up at my website. I'll link it in the show notes. It's totally free. This isn't just about communication. It's about breaking patterns that are breaking you. That's it for today's episode of Coupled With. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to hit subscribe so you never miss what's next. And if you found it helpful, please share it with a friend or leave a quick rating and review. It really helps more than you know. And if you're curious about how we might work together or want more resources to strengthen your relationship, head over to my website, www.drrachelorlick.com. You'll find free tools, podcast extras, and ways to go deeper. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next time.